Let's talk about Marty Friedman coming out in his book and talking about getting lowballed by Megadeth. And I'm going to read the excerpt that I found online from the book. Check this out. It says, in his new book, Dreaming Japanese, Friedman reveals that he met with Megadeth in 2015 to discuss a reunion and received a pretty insulting salary offer. Friedman notes that he would have been paid less in a week with Megadeth than he makes in a single day through his work in Japan, which is not great. So here's the quote from Friedman. Let's just say he wasn't even in the ballpark. Hell, he wasn't even in the parking lot for the ballpark. The amount they offered was right around the first salary I got when I joined Megadeth in 1990. If I'd had any idea they would lowball me like this, I never would have met them in Anaheim. Had I taken that offer, I would have been paid less in a week than I made in a normal day in Japan. I was stunned and angry and told them I couldn't even consider it. I made a counter offer, which was the bare minimum I could accept and far less than I received from any of the artists I've toured with in Japan. I have some thoughts on this. First of all, I think it is absolutely insulting that Dave Mustaine would lowball this guy. And I'm going to tell you why. Couple things. First of all, I think Megadeth would have benefited a lot from Marty Friedman going on and playing on tour with them. Now, why do I say that? Marty Friedman was... So, when people go and think of Megadeth, what's like the first thing they think of? They think of Rust in Peace. They think of Marty Friedman and Dave Mustaine on stage together. You could argue that the band was at the peak of its success when Marty Friedman was in the band. You had Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. Those 4 albums alone, I think, are monster. I think all 4 of those records are great. Now, you did have Risk. Not really going to go into that one. Not a great record. Should have been a Dave Mustaine solo album because I think it would have not received as much criticism. But Marty was arguably part of the most successful era of Megadeth. People view Rust in Peace as like the landmark album. And so when you say, hey, when you go to most people and say, hey, who's your favorite Megadeth guitar player that Dave Mustaine brought in? They're going to say Marty Friedman. Almost everybody says that. I would say that. I think it's Marty Friedman followed by Kiko Luero. Here's the thing. Dave Mustaine, to his credit, has always brought in top-notch musicians into Megadeth. He always has. He has always brought great players into that band. He has a tremendous eye for talented musicians. And I would say, for a majority of their career, he brought in the right guys to play on these albums. Now, there's a couple eras where I'm not a big fan, where he had people that the chemistry really was a little bit off. Like the album World Needs a Hero, for example. Chemistry was probably... It felt off with Al Pitrelli and Jimmy DeGrasso. Both great musicians, but you just didn't feel the chemistry within the band. I think a couple of the albums with Chris Broderick playing on them, chemistry felt a little bit off. But for the most part, throughout the entire band's career, I think Dave Mustaine picked a lot of great people, and they fit really well in a lot of these albums. And I would probably say, of any band in the Big Four, I would say Megadeth is probably, along with maybe Anthrax, I think Megadeth's the most consistent, honestly. Megadeth and Anthrax are my 2 favorite bands out of, the Big Four, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth. So he has always had a talent for doing that. And Dave Mustaine is like one of the best people at writing a very catchy guitar riff. But to lowball Marty Friedman is a travesty. And it's egregious. And it's ridiculous. This is a guy, this isn't just any other guitar player that played in Megadeth. This is the guy that if you go and ask somebody, who would you love to come back to Megadeth? Almost every person would say Marty Friedman. He's that good of a musician. He is that good of a guitar player. And to lowball him, not only is it ridiculous, but it is a huge mistake. Because Marty Friedman would sell tickets for you. The band would bring in more money with Marty Friedman on stage with Dave. You would get people that haven't seen Megadeth in a long time going to see them. You could easily put a lot of press and publicity into that. Marty Friedman would perform very well on stage because the guy is a phenomenal musician on top of a guitar player. So he would definitely come prepared. And it is a huge mistake they did not bring him on tour. It's a shame. Shame on Dave Mustaine for not doing that. Lowballing that guy, to me, huge mistake. Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.